Hello, this is Mr. Jarrett, and in this video tutorial, we are going to be 3D modeling this object. So if you look close at this object, you can kind of see there is a little cutout right here. You can also see that there are little angled lines. So these little angled lines are representing a section view. So this drawing actually demonstrates a half section because a quarter of it is ripped away. So when you look at it from a straight on view, half of it is in the section view. The other half is just a normal view. So this is a half section. And that little cutout, if you look at my little tiny diagram down here, that's actually called a keyway. So a keyway is a small niche or a small cutout like that. And then you have what's called a key. So this would just be another piece of metal. And then the part that's going to go through the middle of it normally is like a cylinder. There is a key set. So that's another groove. The key actually sits in the key set. This thing goes inside this hole and the key actually locks into the keyway. So it's a way of allowing this piece to rotate and connect to this piece without it permanently being welded together. So they would turn together because of this key. So for us, that's just a rectangle that's cut all the way through. But if we look at this, we are going to be revolving this. So you could obviously draw this in a whole bunch of extruded circles and extrude cuts and things like that. But we're going to practice with the Revolve Boss base tool. So I'm going to pull this to my other screen. If you have the ability to do that, I would recommend doing that. And we're going to be making a new part in SolidWorks. And this is in inches, so make sure your units are in IPS. And we're going to be sketching on the front plane. Now, if you look at this picture once again, you can kind of see the origin is right in the middle. And in order to have this hole in here, we're not going to have anything connected to it. So this I, like a capital I looking shape, is going to be moved up from the origin, but it's going to be dead center. Okay, so the center of this eye is going to be right up above this origin. And we're going to be using these different diameters and cutting them in half because we're only drawing half of this so that this revolves around, you'll get the full diameter. So we're going to be typing in these diameters but dividing by 2 so we can find the radius. So let's just start out by going up and getting the center rectangle. You, of course, could do this different ways, but I'm just going to use the center rectangle. And I'm going to move up above my origin. And here, just straight up above, just click and move out and over. Move straight up again and click out and over. And the nice thing with the center rectangle is it gives you a center dot. You, of course, could use that mid plane here or that midpoint, but this is just an easier way. Same thing here. I'm just going to get the corner rectangle, and I'll just click on this line and move down and click on this line. Okay. So I'm going to hit escape to get off of the rectangle tools. And I'm going to actually trim some things up first. So get your trim entities and set it to trim to closest. And there's 2 lines right here. So you're going to have to click on this twice to trim that off. Now, if I would have just used the line tool, that would have been fine. But with the line tool, sometimes you don't draw a perfect line. So the reason I use the rectangle is because this is a vertical line automatically. Okay, so now that that's trimmed, that's all good. But this kind of changed some of the properties, as you can kind of see. So this line is no longer going to be the same length as this. So let's select those 2 lines, hold in Shift and click both of these, and then set them to equal. Okay, so now that they're set to equal, when I move this in or out, these 2 lines are always going to be the same. Now I also want to get this center point, hold in Shift, select this center point and the origin, and I'm going to make those 3 points all vertical. So now this is perfectly lined up. It's all nice and vertical. That's a very quick and simple way of defining this eye so that things move symmetrically with one another. Okay. Now you can also see in the picture itself that the overall length, so from one side all the way to the other, is 2.5. And this projection line or extension line that comes down through here, it basically shows that this end line and this end line are even with one another. And it's the same thing over here. So that means I can take this line, hold in Shift and select this line, and I can make them collinear. so they're straight up and down. I can do the same thing on this side, make them collinear so they're straight up and down. So now when I move things, this truly is going to be symmetrical. Okay, and that overall length we said was 2.5. So why I'm talking about that, I might as well just dimension that and put that in. 2.5. And my spacing from my origin away, so from my origin to this bottom line here, is going to be your first diameter, so that's that 1.12 divided by 2. So we're actually going from here to here, not from there all the way down to the bottom of the circle. So 1.12 divided by 2. And if I'm talking about dividing numbers, it's these numbers again here, these diameters that I'm going to be using. So just look back at that picture. So you could simply just type in 1.12/2. So that is going to be 0.56. Okay, 0.56. So the next measurement is actually going to be from this line to our origin. Okay, and that is that 1.75 divided by 2. So that's actually 0.875. I'm going to change my measurements here so you can actually see that. 0.875. And then moving up to the next horizontal line, that is the 3.5 divided by 2. Of course, some of these numbers you could probably do in your head, just because they're simple numbers like dealing with change. And the last one here, the very top line to my origin, that is going to be 3.88 divided by 2. So everything is pretty much defined except for these two interior lines. And if we're looking at our picture, it says it has a spacing of 0.38 in between. So we can simply just get the Smart Dimension tool, select one line and the other line, and we're going to make this 0.38. So everything now is fully defined. So we could move on from here, or we could actually put in our fillets as we're looking at this view. You can kind of see on the picture that there's these little curved lines, and that's representing that there's fillets. So there's one basically anywhere that these corners, these interior corners, so there'll be 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. And all the fillets have a 0.12 radius. Okay, 0.12 radius. So we could do that now or later, but let's just do it now. So the sketch fillet tool, 0.12, and we'll just click on this corner, hit yes for any warnings it gives us. And it's given us those warnings because we told the computer that these two lines needed to be equal. So when we added a fillet on this side, it's saying, hey, this line's going to be shorter than this line. Are you sure you want to do that? That's what that warning is basically saying. But we do want to do that. So put in all 4 fillets, hit the green check, and now we have our nice curves. Okay, so from here, we can go to the Features tab, and we're going to hit Revolve Boss Base. And it's going to ask us for an axis of revolution. Well, right now, we don't have an axis of revolution. So I purposely forgot to put this in because I wanted to show you here that since this is not on the origin, you actually need to put a construction line or something down here. Most of the time when you're revolving something, you're making a solid object. So you could actually use one of the parts from the sketch or one of the lines from the sketch. We can't do that in this case. So let's go back into our sketch tools, and you might have to hit Control-1 again so it goes back to a flat view. Let's get our line tool and just check the box for construction. Click on your origin and just draw over, and it doesn't matter where to because a construction line is just to help you build. It's not going to change anything from being fully defined or not. But we want a horizontal line. Now we can go to the Features tab and hit Revolve. And for our axis of revolution, obviously it's going to be that line that we just drew. Okay, and we want 360. We'll hit the green check, and now you can see that this is a revolved object. That's the whole way around. So the last thing we need to do is put in our keyway. And since this is a round object, it really doesn't matter if the keyway is perfectly at the top or on the side. It won't matter. But let's just sketch, and we're going to sketch on this flat piece right here. You're going to hit Control-8 so it rotates around. And if we look at the directions, it says the keyway is 0.25 wide and it has a 0.12 depth. Okay, 0.25 wide and 1.2 depth. So the depth is going to be that thin part here, and the 0.25 is actually going to be the height here. That's the width. And the origin is located in the center of the hole. So that's obviously this. All right, that's something we already did. That just means we need to be drawing a rectangle here. So I'm going to use that center rectangle again. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to move my mouse right over here, and there'll be a little yellow dot that pops up. And I'm just going to move up like this. Okay. So the reason I did that is because I'm putting the center of it right on the curve, and that's going to allow me to actually dimension from that center point over to this outside line, and that measurement in between, and something glitched on mine, so I'll try that again. But that measurement in between here, so the center and this outside line, is going to be our 0.12. Okay, and then this inside piece is going to be the 0.25. And what that's actually doing is saying that the depth. So from here to its highest point here, its furthest away point, is that 0.12. Now you might be looking at this and saying, well, that's not true because this curves. That's the only way you can do it on an actual curve. This is always going to continuously curve. So from its center to its furthest point out is that 0.12, and then its width here is going to be that 0.25. So in this case, it's its height. But this is still looking like it's underdefined. So why is that? Well, this is connected to that curve, even though it doesn't look like it is. It's just because the computer cannot render a perfect circle, but it's not straight across from our origin. So if we select the center point of this rectangle and move over here and select the origin itself, you can just hit horizontal, and it should be fully defined. Then we can go to the Features tab, cut Extrude, and we'll send this through all. Okay, hit the green check, and now your keyway is actually cut in there. So let's change our material type, and this is actually a nylon material, so you're going to have to hit Edit Material. And if we scroll all the way down, nylon is going to be in your Plastics folder, and this is Nylon 101. Hit Apply and Close, and let's evaluate it. So the mass properties, and you should be getting a mass of 0.49 pounds. Okay, so if you got that, you can save this and move on to the next one. If you didn't, problem solved, figure out where you went wrong, and good luck.